So I will call to order the Manchester-Essex Regional School District meeting at 6:01 p.m. on April 1st, 2025. And like all meetings, we'll start things off with public comment. It looks like we have a lot of people that have joined today. There's a couple of things in the essence of time. We do need to really stick pretty hard and fast to a 2-minute time limit. And then, I know that there's a lot going on this time of year, and a lot of people have on their minds. I do want to also just kind of remind people that, we have already passed a school budget that is a level services budget and funds that budget so that everyone kind of understands what that means. So we can kick off if anyone has any comments in person that they'd like to make. Please go ahead and raise your hand. Just your name and address.
Josh.
Yeah.
I want to start by saying that the school has given me so much. Thanks to the incredible teachers in this district, I got into my dream college. I love the school so much, and that's why it hurts so much that over the past month, I've seen a real sense of confusion and unease settle over the school community. In the high school, the uncertainty of whether the override will pass or not and which positions will be cut if it does or doesn't pass is a frequent subject of discussion. Around lunch tables, hallways, and classrooms, students are turning to their friends and asking, which teachers do you think are on the chopping block? Oh, I bet it'll be that teacher, not this teacher. This teacher has been here longer than that teacher. My favorite teachers are the teachers who teach the electives I want. Regardless of how much of the speculation is based on fact or myth, the fact remains that it is happening, it is pervasive. There is so much uncertainty that as a senior who will be graduating into a state, I sometimes feel like I'm getting off a sinking ship. What's worse than the uncertainty, though, is what's developing as a result of it. 2 years ago, when the override when the override failed, there was a real sense of pessimism that fell into this game. It's still there today for those of us who remember. So many seniors and juniors who have this terrible feeling that history will repeat itself and the override will not pass. This pessimism, it seems, is here to stay. But what I see developing now, especially among the grades who are experiencing this for the first time, is a sense of resentment. Not towards the school committee or any one individual or group, but towards our situation. We seniors may be getting off this sinking ship, but for the younger students who are left behind as it goes down without any say in the matter, I see resentment developing. Maybe it's best explained in terms of an anecdote. There's one teacher in the high school who's been out on a 3-month maternity leave. She just returned only to be told that, regardless of whether the override passes or not, she will not be offered a position in the school next year. And worse than that there were students who knew before she did. Regardless of the logic and rational reasoning behind the decision to lay off a specific teacher, she needs the most recent hire in one of the larger departments. This decision still feels like a slap in the face. A first-time mother with a 3-month-old newborn coming back from a very brief maternity leave, only to find out she is being let go. It breeds resentment of students and teachers alike. I understand the logic and reasoning behind this decision. I understand that the district is trapped in a terrible position, but as a student in the school, I think it's my duty to let you know these actions, these adults, the agenda of tonight's meeting, they breed resentment. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those online, if you'd like to make a public comment, please put your name and address into the chat, and we'll get to you as well. Go ahead.
My name is Harper J. And I live up 400 Road, Essex. I'm a senior here at Manchester-Essex Regional High School. I want to first thank everyone for their time, but I'm also here on behalf of some students who are worried about the future of not only the students entering and currently attending this school, but for the multiple positions across special education, world language, technology, and other vital programs online. I want people to know how serious this situation is. If the budget override does not pass, classes and teachers will be cut from this. One teacher who has been one of the most supportive and caring people I've met, Madame Cocho, is one of them. Madame provides a unique take on French culture and language because she is French. I've learned countless things from Madame Cocho. I've learned a lot about the French language and the intricate parts of it, such as spelling and grammar. But I have also learned a lot about the French people and the history of the country. I have had her as a teacher throughout all 4 years of my high school career. Through these 4 years, I have developed a personal connection with her, one that is hard to find at other schools. Madame Cocho and the French program as a whole have opened my eyes to many different opportunities when I go to university. It has given me the tools to continue my education and explore further avenues of French or study abroad, and I'm not the only French student who feels this way. My personal relationship with Madame Cocho is just one example of the opportunities that will be lost if this override does not pass. With the removal of teachers and programs, class sizes will decrease, and these relationships will be harder to cultivate. Having these relationships pushes students to try harder and put more effort into their work, which in return gets outcomes to colleges and post-secondary education plans that are desired. Furthermore, if the override does not pass, these opportunities that I have had the privilege to enjoy will no longer be available to everyone. I understand people's hesitation to vote for this override, like those who are on a fixed income budget and are worried about the tax increases. The average tax increase for the year in Essex is $454 or $38 a month, which I understand is a lot of money on a fixed income. However, investing in education is investing in the future of both Manchester by the Sea, Essex, and in some respects the world. Getting a quality education is essential to the development of a functioning adult integrating into society. With the education that Manchester-Essex Regional School District currently provides, we are preparing students for when they graduate and transition into post-high school plans. Without these teachers and programs, this preparation for the future will be negatively impacted. Invest in education is important. Thank you.
There, go ahead.
Erin Greenwood, 27 Norwood in Manchester. I wanted to bring attention to something I learned just today, and I have to say I'm so proud of the students because you are doing exactly what I'm going to advocate for, and bringing this to be a personal commentary, I should say. But I do want to start to personalize this reality. BJ Weed was told today that if the override does not pass, he would lose his job. Let me just explain who BJ is if people listening don't know. BJ is the health and PE teacher in the high school, and in addition, he is the varsity and JV baseball coach. For those of you not aware, he has helped Manchester-Essex baseball bring home not one, but 2 state championships. 2. This is astounding for a district our size. Now, I have 2 baseball players in my house who cannot wait to be a part of BJ's legacy in the future. However, I have met BJ just recently, and I can tell he is a humble guy. Although my boys are younger, I know BJ is well loved by his older students. If he lost his job, it would mean that high school students would get 1 day a week of PE, taught by the middle school teacher. I believe if he loses his job as a teacher, he would be forced to leave his job, his coaching position job. He will need to find a job that literally covers all the bases. Sorry for the pun, but I had to do it. He is a father of 2 children, also desperately wanting choice into the middle and high schools here. This is going to be like 2 minutes because the pages are set. BJ's family story is one of many teachers and their students who will be devastated if this override is not passed. Teachers and coaches like BJ do their jobs because it's in their blood, it's their DNA, to pass on their gifts to our students. Let us give them a chance to give our kids their gifts. We will all be better for it. I urge everyone today to deeply consider the small monthly price of increased taxes it would take in order to have massive rewards on our education system. Students who are listening, and I'm so happy to see so many of you here. I wasn't actually expecting so many of you. I have no doubt your adoration for these teachers and coaches. You are leaders. Use your voice. Gather together, make a plan, and spread the word. Tell your neighbors who your favorite teachers are and why. Please ask them to vote for the override. Thank you.
Do you have anyone online, Maria?
No.
Not yet. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Sarah Davis, 11 Highland Avenue. I have a daughter in the second grade Memorial and a rising kindergartner with That's a thing. I just wanted to say that I got confused about the meeting time and went to Dunkin' Donuts in the hour before this, and the table of high schoolers next to me was similarly talking about the budget, and how distraught they were, and maybe specific teachers. And at one point, they were talking about if each student could raise the $500 themselves to support the deficit. And I just thought it was so amazing. And that just happened to be a random occurrence. Being said here, I was really just blown away by what was said there. Prepared remarks. I was typing at Dunkin' Donuts. I know we'll hear later about the contingency plan should the towns fail to approve the budget. And I'm here to listen to that plan in real time so that I can help in the communications campaign to ensure that residents fully grasp the consequences of failing to approve the budget, including what could be losing what I've heard to be 22 teaching positions, a change that would fundamentally alter the level of education the district would be able to provide and no doubt irreparably damage our teachers' faith in our community's commitment to support them and create a stable working environment. I grew up in Duxbury, and I have even seen in the Globe, they've covered a lot of high-performing towns that have failed to pass their override. They've talked trends there. And they were in a situation, which I know we're familiar with, where it passed a town meeting, failed at the ballot by 200 votes. And the parents there are beside themselves because they are facing 18 teacher cuts. And they're asking each other, some of the parents are asking, what can we do? And they didn't grasp that now there's nothing they can do. So I'm very interested in hearing what the communications plan is. And like I said, I think a lot of people in this room are here to help support what it is, because I think by my count, we have 41 days till the Essex ballot vote, and that's not a lot of time. So I guess that would be my ask to really hear about the communications plan and how we can support that.
Go ahead.
Erin Fortunato, I'm a resident of Beverly. I have taught Spanish and French in this district since 2011. In addition, I run for 2 blocks, chaperone several international trips, have been advisor for drama, robotics, classes, currently working as high school student council advisor. When I first arrived in this district, we had a shared middle school, high school schedule. So I was teaching some sections of middle school, foreign language, as well as some high school. In the time after that, we split those 2 schedules. And at that point, there was a full-time position within the world language department that was also split, setting point 4 to the 6th grade for middle school world language and keeping point 6 in the high school. This meant that we needed 2 part-time teachers. We needed someone who could teach 2 classes a day on a rotating schedule in middle school, someone who could teach 3 classes a day on a rotating schedule in high school. Obviously pretty difficult to fill. We actually began to start referring to the high school position as the defense against the dark arts, in reference to the Harry Potter teacher who every single year was replaced. Now, this really is not an exaggeration. Between 2014 and 2021, I taught beside 7 different part-time high school teachers. 7. Okay. We had almost as many go through the middle school for French and Spanish part-time teachers. During those years, we were hit with even more challenges. The district first drastically reduced and then completely cut our elementary world language program, eventually cut the 6th grade as well. We kept a teacher in 7th grade French position for a few years who didn't even speak a lick of the language. How do you teach it if you don't speak it? I don't know. Finally, in 2021, we were able to change that high school position to a full-time and bring in Ms. Cochon, who's already been mentioned this evening. Just as we started gaining momentum in the program in 2023, 2 years ago, we faced impending cuts and a vote that forced Ms. Cochon to apply out of the district. Thankfully, we were able to bring her back, but now 2 years later, we again face the same strain. I want to know how we're expected to build a strong program with such inconsistency. This history has had very severe effects on the number of students enrolled in French. You're seeing that affects the sophomore and junior class now, which has led to the low enrollment that you saw when you looked at high school French numbers, but which is growing significantly when you look at the French enrollment in middle school. Despite those dropping numbers, students still find our courses important and frequently continue through all 4 years of the program. In fact, since 2018, I have written 70 letters of recommendation for seniors from our French program applying to college. That means 70 students in the last 8 years found our French classes and helped them show so much growth and personal development that they chose to use it as one of only 2 or 3 recommendation letters to represent their entire high school career. They felt that I had watched them overcome challenges, seen them grow, develop in a way that would show them off very well to their future college prospects.
Even while hobbled, our program is still strong and successful. Each year we graduate 15 to 20 students who qualify for the state seal of Bible literacy, several of them sitting in the room with you right now, meaning they have proven proficient levels in all 4 language skills, speaking, listening, reading, writing, in both English and either French or Spanish, and sometimes both. But you can't get that if you can only pass in 3, right? We can only have 3 skills passed. We'd have many more students with the seal of biliteracy, right? Just to prove to you that we are a strong department who are trying our best, despite being hobbled, to do this. I bring this background up because at the last meeting's vote, we had a recommended budget for the towns, and within that, there was 1 FT from the high school to be moved to a middle school world language position. This background information that I give you, I hope you and the community have when you were choosing to move this full-time member of my department, likely me being dual certified, to this undetermined middle school world language position. I know that you have interest in bringing back the 6th grade world language program. I applaud and appreciate the want and attention to that end. I very much understand this is something that's contingent upon the town votes and support of the budget, and I know there are many people who will be getting cut should those votes not pass. But I have great concerns that there is not currently moving the 6th grade schedule for a full-time world language course, and that we have been told that it would like to be added back as an exploratory, requiring only a 0.4 FT, that is 2 classes a day. It is currently unclear how the other 6.6 3 classes would be used, and there seems to be little plan to clarify that anytime soon. It would be a sincere shame to move a full-time teacher from the high school where they have a full 5-course load to a position where they may be used as a non-language teacher for 3 out of 5 classes every day. I understand that the shadow of this impending vote looms over us, but we in the building still need to plan schedules for this coming fall and to try and anticipate what students' needs would look like, and thus we are in need of some more specific guidance. With this in mind, and I come to the end of my plea, I ask you to consider that 1, the 6th grade world language be made a core course meeting daily. While the high school courses would still take a serious hit, this would be a real and true way to bring back the 6th grade world language course and would have lasting effects on the development of the program. If this is not possible, or in addition to this option, I propose or beg that Mita and the teachers be urged to accept a combined schedule proposal, and that budget wording be allowed some flexibility so we can at least split that position and have 2 middle school classes and some high school classes continue to go. Either way, as you look at possible options for what that override failure might include, please consider that cutting the staff and programs from world language in particular would affect our students in myriad ways, both in their development as humans and learners and in how they see themselves and prepared for their own future. Thank you for your support.
Budget season is my least favorite season for so many reasons. As someone who's in a particular circumstance where I do have a really good knowledge of what is going on in our community, I've been very fortunate to have a basic understanding of this recent budget situation. I've heard many thoughts, opinions, and I don't even know where that these past weeks. Many presented as if they are fact from every side. For the most part, teachers and students alike do a wonderful job of being impartial in terms of political stance at a national level when in school. When it starts to get closer to home, everyone becomes more vocal. As we get closer to these decisions being made, I ask that there is a level of clarity that I am sure tonight will bring. Our teachers at ease, so the focus of our school day can be on our education and not whether the teachers will be keeping their jobs. I encourage all eligible members of our community to go to their town meetings, be vocal, and vote for our schools. I have confidence that our communities will do the right thing and vote in this budget so that our education will be compromised and made move forward. No, you don't.
Back here, I think far away.
No, you're good.
All right, Frank Ressler, 30 Joe, Essex. Acknowledging the reason that we're here today and the work that has to be done here, I'm going to kind of follow up on some of my comments from last time about how this entire budget process affects the town, holistically affects the town and the schools all together. Right. So right now, the town of Essex, on the back of a kind of putting 1.91% of increase for their school portion under the levy, is able to do a lot of other things because of this override. The town general budget is going up 5.6% this year, including nearly 20% increase in health insurance, 17% increase in the fire department, 7.5% in the ambulance department, about 5.5% in in utilities, electric and gas utilities. So and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm saying this is a correction that needs to be happening, and it's happening now. And it's happening in part because of this override. And so again, while I appreciate the exercise here, when we think about this, and I'm hoping that we don't get to that point, that we all look at this as a one big budget for the town, the voters of Essex who are here, and think about it that way, and think about what we are getting out of having this override as a town, and all the benefits we're getting out of it for the school and for all those other things, all wrapped up in one. And what a failure of an override truly means, because it actually is going to impact all of those things in some way, shape, or form. So, thank you.
Yeah. Just as like a warning, I didn't decide that I was gonna come and say anything until F-block today, so this is not my best work, so, okay, my name is Jennifer Coleman-Micho. I've been a social studies teacher in the district for 15 years. I am here tonight not to bring attention to a what if the district is forced to implement the override contingency plan. I'm here to discuss an actual harm to students if the budget approved by the school committee on March 18th to be sent to the towns for approval. The elimination of a high school social studies teaching position. Some context. A high school student typically enrolls in 6 to 7 full-time courses each school year due to our 7-block A through G schedule. If a student fills all 7 blocks their freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and only 6 their senior year, because they have to have a senior study hall, that would take 135 credits in their high school career. Our program of studies mandates 92.5 credits worth of graduation requirements. This leaves 42.5 credits that students have a choice in what classes they can enroll in. Freshmen and sophomores have less room in their schedules to choose classes due to the need to complete graduation requirements, but juniors and seniors have a lot more freedom in how they fill their 6 or 7 blocks. For example, juniors are required to take U.S. History 2, English 11, or AP, a math and a science class. This leaves 3 blocks, or 15 credits, that they have choice in how they fill. Seniors are only required to take English 12 or an AP and math, leaving 4 or 5 blocks in their schedule to fill. The program of studies has to include non-required courses to fill these gaps in scheduling. Over the last few weeks, students in grades 8 through 11 have been requesting the courses they would like to enroll in next year. The department has received these numbers in order to determine how many sections of each course to offer. For example, if 78 students request World History 2 honors, the department head would choose to run 4 sections of the course, averaging 19 or 20 students in each section. Each teacher can teach 5 sections, except for department heads who only teach 4 due to their other duties. The social studies department had received the course request for our department for next year recently. If every single student got the social studies class or classes they requested to enroll in, she would need 35 sections to do so. This is the equivalent of 6 teachers and the department head, and we would still be 1 section short. Currently, the high school social studies department has 5 teachers and the department head. The budget proposed by this school committee to the towns eliminates 1 high school social studies position, leaving our department, which already cannot meet the requests of students, in my opinion, understaffed. With this proposed cut, our department has only 24 sections to schedule classes in. In our courses, which are graduation requirements, class sizes are going to be close to 25 students. 25 high school students in a class does not reflect best practices. 2 of your own children are in a history class with 25 students in it, and I can honestly say that they are not receiving the same quality of education of students in a smaller class. More students in a room means more behaviors to manage, which cuts into class time. It's more questions that are asked and answered, which cuts into class time. It's more papers to read and tests to grade, which slows down the rate at which feedback can be given. More students makes it harder for me to build relationships with each student in the class. In a large class, I cannot meet the students' individual needs like I can in the smaller classes. Larger classes are bad for educational outcomes. In order to meet the, thank you, listen up. To meet the requests of our core classes and keep sections at 25 students, this requires 16 of our 24 sections. This leaves 8 sections for non-required courses.
If the social studies department can only run 8 sections of non-required courses, 60 to 100 students will not be able to take a requested class. Yes, wow is correct. These 60 to 100 students are overwhelmingly juniors and seniors. Classes like evidence-based argumentation, current global topics, and diverse American stories won't be able to run at all. United States government and politics, comparative government and politics, psychology, sociology, and 9/11 on the war on terror will run, but be unable to meet the high enrollment demand. The juniors and seniors can't get into a requested class because it fills, and this is going to impact the juniors much more than the seniors because the seniors get scheduled first. This puts pressure on the other non-required classes. When those courses hit their 25 seat maximum, or a course does not fit into the student schedule, I would encourage everybody to sit in Julie's office when she's trying to build the schedule so you can see how complex it is. It's a mess. It's impossible. There's going to be nowhere for them to go but a study hall. In this scenario, it is feasible that students could be scheduled for 2 study halls in a day and still have you block. When they text you and say that they have nothing to do at school, they're actually going to mean it, unlike they do now. When I spoke at the February budget hearing, I cited the MER's mission statement in my argument. Manchester-Essex Regional School District provides a high-quality, comprehensive, student-centered educational experience that supports students' academic, social, and emotional development and prepares them for a post-secondary education or service experience, a career, and a life as an engaged member of society. The intent of social studies classes, like the ones we attempt to offer, are meant to equip students with the knowledge and skills to be informed, responsible, and engaged citizens in our world. A world that is becoming more diverse and interconnected every day. A world that needs a new generation of leaders. Our classes foster critical thinking skills and teach students how to function in society. Now more than ever, we need students to enroll in the social studies. High student requests for social studies courses is not unique to this upcoming school year. I had to turn away a lot of students from taking U.S. government and politics this year because 2 of the 3 sections were full. Many could not take it during the section that did have space because it ran up against chemistry. Because in our small school with our small number of teachers, there's always going to be conflicts like that. In our small school, fewer teachers can have more conflicts in the schedule and the fewer opportunities for our students. Based on the consistent popularity of social studies courses, I am honestly baffled at how the decision to cut this position was made. Often when debating decisions, this committee comes back to what is best for students. This decision, and I do not understand the logic behind making this based on the data that exists, is not what is best for students. I beg the committee and school leadership to find a solution to this error in judgment.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Robbie Pillsbury, 126 Eastern Avenue in Essex. I'm going to try and be, because I can, as a longtime resident of Essex, teacher in this district. I've kind of seen the town of Essex, the past few years. If you'll indulge me, all of, the inflation and everything that has been happening is just rising and rising and rising. You see it in our 25% healthcare at the school, but also the nearly 20% in the rest of the Essex public workers. Costs of everything are rising. We have not had an override in a long time. For me as a coach, I like to focus on things that we can control. I kind of feel like the town of Essex has proudly said, oh, let's keep things really trim. And meanwhile, this is happening. We need to catch up. We need to catch up to give just amazing people like our firefighters more than $20 an hour. There are town things that are also included in this budget for everyone in Essex. We need to catch up with what's going on financially so we can start at a place that makes more sense going forward in the future. Thank you.
Fiona Dooley.
Okay. Fiona, if you can hear us, please go off mute. And go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I know a lot of people in the room probably already know who I am, but just in case you don't, I teach elementary music at Manchester Elementary, pre-K through 5. I direct elementary chorus at both schools, and I also created a program called Rock Band, which we didn't offer before, which is an ensemble for drum, guitar.
Ms. Stewart, if you can hear us, it looks like we lost you. You're still in the meeting though. I'm not sure if it's.
Okay, did my connection cut out?
There
You're
you
back.
are.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that. We
Play
lost.
non-traditional. Can you hear me now?
We can. A little choppy, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna try. So kids who play guitar or drums like previously might not have joined an ensemble, and also kids with a certain personality type, like maybe more like rowdy kids or something.
Yeah, maybe we can hold and come back to you, okay? Because you just cut out again. Sorry about that. So hold on.
Didn't necessarily. If my position were cut, and just lots of other opportunities would not be available to the kids in the arts, and kids don't only need math, creativity, and they need opportunities to express their emotions. And I just really hope that you'll vote oh god, for the override, because it really wouldn't be fair to take that away from kids. I'm speaking off the cuff because I just found out this afternoon that my position would be cut if the override doesn't pass. I was surprised. Last time 2 years ago it was just a reduction in FTE, but no, I might actually be laid off. So I just knows what the kids will be missing out on if that happens. Thank you.
My name is Lindsay Banks. I'm at 44th Street in Manchester. I wanted to make comments today and direct them to any residents of Manchester and Essex who are listening. I don't know about you, but to say I'm feeling budget fatigue is an understatement. We're hearing it from these students, even my 5th graders talking about it. We are at a tough time when it feels like a lot of things are outside of our control. One way we can take control over the local issues that affect us most is to vote. The school committee already passed the level services budget. Now we need the residents of Manchester and Essex to vote to pass it, or the cuts that we're hearing about tonight go from a contingency plan to a reality. Voting is a political act, and politics do feel scary right now. But voting for our schools doesn't have to be scary. Voting is simple. Voting is free. Both towns will have free childcare. And town meeting admittedly doesn't make it easy, but it's worth it for our kids because our kids need great teachers, and their great teachers are sitting here fighting for their jobs and their livelihoods. Town meeting in Manchester is on April 28th, and any other town meeting needed to get after that to vote to get this done, please make a plan, show up, and vote. Town meeting in Essex is on May 5th, and then again, you need to vote at the ballot on May 12th. Make a plan and show up to both and vote. And every other town meeting or ballot vote that we need to after that to get this figured out, show up, make a plan, vote. And when you go vote, make a goal to bring at least 3 friends with you, or 10. Because that's what it means to be in democracy. This is what it takes to ensure we have quality public schools, that we have equity between our towns, that we fund rich educational experiences like foreign languages and art and music and rock band and all of the things that light our kids up. That we ensure that students have what they need to learn. Your kids, our kids, the children of Manchester and Essex, their coaches, their teachers, their mentors, they are worth your time to show up and vote. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the chat?
Mrs. Stefanik.
Okay. Mr. Stefanik, why don't you go ahead? You can come off mute.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Well, first of all, to introduce myself, I'm Keith Stefanik. I teach 7th grade math at Manchester-Essex. I'm in my 19th year, and I'm also the president of Manchester-Essex Teachers Association. And I just wanted to give a shout out to some of the speakers that have gone before me. Just like you swell with pride when you hear Josh and Harper speak so eloquently about their experience with us and what's at stake if these cuts do come to fruition. Some of my 7th graders were talking nostalgically about Fiona Dooley's rock band from a couple years ago. There was a picture and they're all little. And I said, when are you going to get the rock band back together? And, stories started to flow. So the passion you hear from Jen Coleman and Erin Fortunato, they are veterans. They've seen the budget battles and the world language department has been cut, and cut. When I first got here, K to 12, we have such a fantastic world language program. And then that became 2 to 12. And then that became gone in elementary. And they chipped away at 6th grade. The they is you, right? So it's cut. So I'm concerned that we're losing the uniqueness of our district. As I said to Pam, we're not the merds that I grew up with. And it's time that these cuts stop. I looked at that list on the spreadsheet. Every person on that list is really talented. Every person on that list has a story, and I think we cannot continue to exist in we're going to cut this or we're going to cut that. It's not the dialogue of a world-class district. And I say that to the committee. I say that to the superintendent. This cycle needs to stop. It just does. You cannot. This is like scrounging for the next meal. So my feeling is that this district, our students deserve a fully funded budget. The cuts need to stop. That talented list of people on a spreadsheet, and they are way more than a list of names on a spreadsheet, they need to be back with us in August. And I hope that the powers that be can make that happen and the voters themselves. But I just wanted to say fully funded is the key. I'm so proud of the students and my colleagues speaking up. And the time is critical. We were here 2 years ago. Why are we here again? This just can't be a recursive situation. So I think this is a real fork in the road about what the future of MERSD looks like. And I know I want to see a restoration of the world-class district that I was hired in, that I was raised in, and that I want to end my career in. I really do. So thank you for your time.
Why don't we go with here first? Go ahead.
Okay, Jay Davis, 40 Commercial Road in Manchester. So earlier this school year, I wrote an article for our Mason School District Independent about our school was ranked 3rd in the state in Massachusetts. And writing the article really reaffirmed my gratitude and how lucky I was to be able to grow up and attend school in such an amazing district. And I believe that if this override does not pass, there will not be many more articles written on this topic in the future. And over the past couple of weeks, I have heard from many of my peers and underclassmen that they are stressed and worried about not being able to take the classes that they want to this year. And I think that it is shameful that a district as amazing and great as far as students don't have to worry about that. They should be stressed about their tests and I don't know, their after school activities.
They should not be worried about that. That is unacceptable. And I understand that this is a tax issue and that those with fixed income are, worried about being able to pay their bills, and I understand that. But if you fall in that category, I implore you to think about your time as a student and think about a teacher or a class that made a large impact on you when you were growing up. And I want you to think about that when you go and vote, because I think that the students in your community deserve the opportunities to learn and grow and try new things and learn from amazing teachers. So yeah, just please remember those students in your meetings when you are voting. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Down, and Pleasant Street, Manchester. I actually didn't prepare anything tonight, but I feel like I need, as a teacher and a parent, my third grade is waiting out there, definitely for me to leave. I had to say something. Just because I spent my career as a teacher, I spent my days with seventh graders. I trust every day when I send my kids to this district that they are taken care of, they're loved, they're inspired. And I guess I'm feeling a little heartbroken that we have to keep having this conversation, as so many of you have said. But I'm also speaking as an educator, and maybe on behalf of some of those of you here tonight who teach my children and will teach my children hopefully one day. The profession has become very demoralizing. And I think it's easy for many of you to come here today and be on this committee and feel like you're doing your part to support the schools. I can tell you, as somebody who returned to the profession after leaving to have my kids, after being an administrator, it is remarkably different today to educate a child than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we're repeatedly asked and demanded upon to live in this in-between gray area. I mean, these are people's lives. And we think that we're just disposable. We can tell them, okay, well, maybe you'll have a job in August, and maybe the override will pass, and it probably will, and I'm sure you'll all come back if you're offered a job somewhere else. That builds resentment, as the first young man said tonight. We need to care more about teachers. It may be cliche, but we are the backbone of a society. And I spent my day today finishing a book with seventh graders, and they had such insightful things to say that remind me of what we're doing right now here tonight, this conversation we're having. Because we read a book about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. These two teachers, I don't know if you know much about it, and women's suffrage. And they were just questioning the greed in the book and why the factory owners didn't learn the lesson after that fire, after that building burned down and all of those women and workers lost their lives. And I'm like, these are really good questions. I don't know. I don't know why we live in a society that does value money and all these things that really, to a seventh grader in their simple world, don't seem very important. So I guess I just plead with I don't even want to say plead, I guess I trust in my neighbors in Essex and Manchester that when we go out to vote, like Lindsay is imploring all of you to do, that you vote for our children. I mean, it's as simple as that. And for our teachers who have chosen a path that might not be, buy them the big house on the water up the street, but it's a really honest living. It's a wonderful way to spend your life. We choose it every day. And I just ask my community, do it. And don't make us come back here again next year and the year after that, and the year after that. Make it be done. Put the money into where we need to put the money. And let's continue to build a wonderful place. So that's all.
Schools provided me a lot of amazing opportunities. I've gotten into flight monitors, I've gotten into many amazing helpers. And I just want to make sure that the funded school can provide the same opportunities to my members. So understand many of this underclassmen that I've got to know over the years. And we have so many opportunities in the school. And that's something that I've had the chance to get to know people from other schools, and it is not the same as that from other schools. So there's a reason that we're ranked number 3 in the state, and it's because of the quality of the teaching we provide. And if we put however many decisions we would provide, if we fail the classes override, we would not be providing, we would be failing the students who are still there. Because I believe that as many of the seniors appear to, that these
children who are still in school and who are not graduating this year deserve the same opportunities that I have, deserve the same chance at getting into a good college or having the foundation for the future that I have received from the school. So we need to go to school because it's not just a one thing, it's about 1,000 students in these schools who are going to go out today and that paper starts here. So we cannot allow children to go.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. And are we good online?
Donna first, 8 Blossom.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, perfect. I just actually just kind of have a question that I'm hoping that when Pam goes through this evening, I'll get a better sense. So just two things. One, if we pass an override, if Essex passes an override and the current budget passes, are we back in the same position next year to discuss the following year's budget? Or is this budget helping us for the next few years? Now, if we don't pass the budget, if we don't do an override and we cut these positions, are we yet again back in the same position next year discussing the following year budget? Kind of like, are we needing an override every next couple of years? Are these teachers' jobs on the line for the next couple of years if we don't do overrides? I mean, I understand about health insurance and different things that can play, but I feel like we're just putting a Band-Aid on the situation to just yet again this year get through the year. So I'm just kind of hoping we might get a sense tonight when we kind of go over the cuts or whatever, if the budget passes or doesn't, that I might get some answers to that because this is complicated and I'm a little bit confused about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. I think we're good to move on. So we'll start by, I can, I suppose, give a brief chairperson's report just to clarify a bit of the status of where we are in the budget season. And just, I guess, point out a few things as well. So the school committee has passed a budget. We've sent that budget to the towns. The towns then decide how they're going to fund that budget and present it to their voters at both town meetings. And then my understanding in Essex, due to the situation of the budget, they're also going to need to have an override passed to add the ballot. I'm not sure how many people fully understand what Proposition 2.5 means, but I would, suggest that you take a look at that and what that actually means. And as far as the plan that we are putting out tonight, I would, I think, just state that the reason we are putting this plan together is to share with our voting population on one hand, to let them know what the impact is of their votes, upcoming votes. But then secondly, also to provide an early and professional courtesy to teachers that may or may not be impacted by this, so that they also have an understanding of where they, may sit and what the impact of these votes might be. So, that's not necessarily something that we are required to do by law, but something that we want to do to give as much notice as possible so that everyone does understand the impact of this. Again, the school committee has passed a budget and now it is on to the towns. So I think a few people mentioned it tonight in terms of what you could do to help and support that. So I would encourage you to do so. And that's all that I had for my report. You have a report tonight? Brief. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, anything I was going to say, I feel like it's been put so well by my teachers and my fellow students. But I would just kind of echo Maggie in this Bank's sentiments in kind of addressing like Manchester and Essex voters over addressing the school committee, because those are voters and people who really have influence over this now. And I feel like at these school committee meetings, we always hear really great comments, but they're usually from one side of the aisle. So I always wish that we heard more from the other side of the aisle, because I feel like it's really important for people to hear And so like that people can have conversations on across the aisle. But I would say if you are a voter, especially if you're in Essex, and you feel strongly about this issue, please like go talk to your neighbors, go talk to community members, go talk to people who you disagree with. And just try, I don't know, try to have conversations, even if you don't agree with them. And then I would also say if you're a student and you're 18 or you're turning 18 between now and sometime, between the vote in Essex, make sure you register to vote and you show up to vote. Or if you have your parent and you're a student in the school, make sure you show up to vote. Because I think what happened 2 years ago is a lot of people just assumed it would pass. So if you feel strongly, please show up to vote. Yeah.
So we'll now move on to our consent agenda. Let's see. We're good. So I'd like to propose a motion to approve vouchers 1058 through 1060, as well as our minutes from our meeting. Just remind me when our last meeting was.
18, March 18.
On March
18.
18. Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
So what I'm running into, and I feel like I'm a hold up each time for the last 2 meetings, what I'm running into is I feel like in order to go through all of the super detailed minutes that we have, they're so detailed that I almost have to compare them to the video to make sure that they align. And so that's why it's because I simply don't have time to do that. I think that this might be something we could talk about together at a future date, but I want you to know I appreciate the efforts, but that's why I am abstaining from this. It's not me.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor? All those abstaining? Okay, great. All right. So next on the agenda.
Donation.
Just for me, the donation.
Donation, right? Yep. Okay. So how?
Just a
Just a
motion
quick
to, I
motion.
mean,
All right.
really what you can do is take the entirety of the consent agenda and make a motion to approve the consent agenda if there aren't any detailed questions about any of the pieces, or we can break it up too, but it's intended to go as a package because it's complete business.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to accept the donation. And this is for equipment for the high school auditorium.
Second.
Any discussion?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I don't know. I see the president of OMIPA here, and I didn't know if we were planning to hear from the person or talk a little about what's included here. So it's a considerable donation.
If you'd like to.
It's at your whim, Chairman Reed.
I'll speak on David Bradford, Old Essex Road in Manchester. I'm the treasurer for Manchester. So roughly this time last year, maybe a little later, we did a help co-sponsor an audit of the auditorium and sound equipment to improve the sound in the auditorium. Number of recommendations. We as a organization did fundraising over the summer, early fall, around $3,500 to raise money for equipment for microphones and some receivers and other miscellaneous equipment. So we were able to purchase roughly $3,500 in equipment. This is the donation of that to the school. It was used last year during the Shrek concert or the Shrek show, and hopefully those of you there saw some marked improvement in the sound. And so we need to formally gift this to the school, and so that's what this request is for. Thank you.
Can I just ask a clarification? Just because it's in here as 13,500.
Oh, 13,000.
3,500. This is a big deal. Yeah.
So I think the original,
audit that you all had done of the sound system included not only the microphones and whatnot, but the speakers. And I think, wasn't there part of that that we were going to cover as a district? Is that still in?
It's part of our capital plan at this point. When we initially started having discussions right about a year ago, when I joined the district, we had estimates that were much lower than what the actual cost came in at. When we put it out to bid, it came in at almost $100,000, which was kind of a sticker shock because we were anticipating it to be less than 35,000. So because of this cost amount, we had to add it to the capital plan because now it's a matter of, do we replace that or do we replace water heaters? So unfortunately, it's in the big blue with the rest of the capital plan this time for future consideration.
I'd like to make a comment as someone who has a daughter who works with this equipment directly and a husband who has helped with that as well. It's made a huge difference. And this, even without the speaker part of it, the mics and the receivers and everything have been such a huge difference. And so this donation is really appreciated by everybody. And we're grateful that you're able to do that where we can.
I suppose a final comment, thank you to all the volunteers that did volunteer their time to put together these fundraisers and raise these funds. We very much appreciate it. I know students do as well. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. So moving on to our subcommittee reports. Do we have a facilities report?
An update, yeah.
Update?
We met. Sorry, I changed my screen to something else. We did meet recently. I thought it was going to be the first meeting with our OPM, but it turns out that it was not. The OPM cannot come lead our meetings until after the official MSBA approval on the 7th. Is that right? On April 7th coming up. So we talked a little bit about the issue happening with the sewer smell that maybe Michelle can speak a little bit to further, and then a little bit of process about once the OPM's on board, moving forward with procurement for designer. And what am I missing?
I think you've got it. At this point, we think the designer, the RFS, so the request for services proposal will go out sometime toward the beginning of May. The process will unfold very similar to the OPM process with the identification and naming of the our choice for designer sometime toward the end of the school year. And then we anticipate 2 board meetings in July. So the team will be on board to begin work in August. So it's pushed our timeline a little bit. So we anticipate kickoff meetings to happen in the fall. Kind of a short version of timeline. And then we did report out on an ongoing problem we've been having at Essex Elementary back to the beginning of the year. We've got to have all the conversations about the sewer smells. Go for it.
Yes, so we had a mysterious odor at the Essex Elementary School that popped up from time to time. It seemed to move around the building, so it certainly stumped us. We kept trying various solutions, whether it was pumping things or having plumbers in and whatnot. Finally, a couple of weeks ago, we were able to find a leak in one of our steam pipes. We fixed that, but also when we were fixing that, we found a crack in one of our soap pipes after we had removed a whole bunch of insulation and whatnot in a crawl space. So we think we have finally fixed that. The total cost for all of these little items that we had called in for service contractors, we believe will cost us in the ballpark of $10,000. So for $10,000, we believe we have fixed this issue. Our fingers are crossed that this does not reappear, as it seemed to be a very mysterious item and just popped up in various different places in the building all over the place. So it certainly was a mystery, but due to our facility staff, we were able to find and solve that issue.
Thank you. And the finance subcommittee also has a report?
Yes, we met today. Part of what we looked at is the budget to actual, which we'll talk about later as a whole committee. The other thing that we talked about was the kind of process of draft, the budget approval in the Two-Town Regional School District that Pam sent out as a draft. And we talked about a few clarifications there that Pam and Michelle will work to revise and get back to us. Primarily,
clarifying that we actually provide the towns an initial budget, but that we did back in January, just to include that on here as part of the process. But also to clarify whether or not and when a ballot is needed. So when we get to a second and/or third town meeting, if necessary, whether or not that, the towns require an override, whether or not, be clear about whether or not that also requires a ballot, which is not currently on here. So other than that, I think we'll wait until the actual budget report.
Great. Thank you. And I don't believe the policies committee met and negotiations team did not. So moving on to the superintendent's report.
In this section, I just have two quick things. One, an update, the DESI review timeline has come up a couple of times, and I was able to connect with our rep, and he anticipates potentially sometime June, July timeframe. It's about a 5-month turnaround. We haven't had anything from him yet. So that is what he has predicted at this point in time. So I don't think we'll see it in the next couple of months, but I will keep you posted and let you know when we get any first indication that we'll be getting the report, or like when we get closer to the actual completion date. And then I just wanted to extend some gratitude and thanks to Christy Umili and everyone who participated in making the STEAM night happen. I think it gets big. Much thanks for that, and for all the community members, parents that came out in support of that event. It was really an uplifting night, given the other work that's been going on, the other conversation that's been going on around the district. So other than those two pieces of information, we had the report. She's going to share a lot of the fun stuff that's been going on for the past couple of weeks. But Michelle and I have been pretty neck deep in the budget pieces. So hopefully we'll be pulling out of that after tonight and focusing on really just communicating and less document production. So that's all that I have in this segment.
All right, thank you. Any questions at all? All right. I don't think we have a CPAC update slide, right?
I don't think anybody. No.
So moving on, we'll do our curriculum update with Evan. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Hi. I won't take long. I know there's a lot of really important things that we're here for, but I do just want to highlight, and I also want to say, like, there's just no way to include so much of the incredible work that's happening in our classrooms and in our schools every day. So please take this as a snippet, but not the full picture, because I could keep you here all night with what's happening across our buildings. Just for my office, things to know what's been going on. Every 6 years, the state requires that we submit a monitoring review of our ESSA-funded grants, which are Title grants, Title I, Title II, and Title IV. So we submitted that and are just waiting to hear the feedback on that. So that's, check that off. Good to say. We have MCAS up and running across our levels, and kudos to our students and our staff. There was a shift in the platform that hosted it, so there's been some adjusting to make sure they can take care of technology, but also making sure it doesn't create additional stress. And so folks are working hard to make sure that's as smooth as possible. We had, over the last month, we had two evening events, one at Memorial and one at Essex, for parent and caregivers for our math and literacy. And this was facilitated by our instructional coaches to really highlight opportunities and ways you can continue to support literacy and math learning at home. So thank you to them, and thank you to the community members that were able to come to really think about how we can continue that learning partnership in the evening as well as we do during the day. I also want to recognize the work at Essex. The grades 2 and 3 have had a shared professional goal around focus in mathematics instruction. And so they actually invited, there's a snapshot there on the bottom, they invited parents to come in and watch their students engage in a math problem solving activity and try to engage with them in a way that doesn't overly coach them toward the answer, but rather help them engage in problem solving and thinking. So it was a really fantastic event, and it was great to see so many families there. The senior sport projects are getting ready to get up and started, so we will miss them in the spring, but we know they're going out into our community to do some really wonderful field-based learning opportunities and apply what they've been learning in their classrooms every day. Just some other shout outs about what's been going on over the last month since the last time I had a chance to share with you. I had a chance to go to high school jazz night, which was awesome. Our robotics team, Robotics by Sea, I happened to get a chance to see them when they competed in Revere with their robot, the Sea Monster. And their season ended, but it was really great to see their engagement and communication and collaboration with other towns and the networking that they get a chance to do both with other districts and also with field professionals. Pretty amazing. The World Language International Week that they ran the week of March 12th, where they brought in folks who have had different experiences globally and really had a chance for students to hear all the different ways that they can engage with culture and international opportunities. And it was just exciting. Anytime you walked by, they were so into it, what they were listening and hearing. That community engagement and celebration at the middle school with their March Madness event, which took place, it was just such a positive, fun community competition, and seeing the teachers right up in there with their students. And then a shout out to Augie, who's a junior at the high school, who was recognized for the 2025 Professional Art Competition. I know that's something that it's pretty incredible. It was displayed at Montserrat. Do you know if it's still up? So pretty incredible recognition to have happen from one of our talented artists. I want to also recognize the Professional Development Day. I know it was mentioned last time, but I just want to share the work that happened on that day. It was a really great opportunity for us. We started the day by hearing from a panel of incredible students, sharing about their learning experiences here at school and what it is that we do that had an impact on their learning, and how can we continue to grow those types of learning experiences. Fabulous facilitator, and then our teachers had a chance to engage in different sessions that connected to their work to help continue to grow their practice. And our focus was taking things that we learned theoretically and thinking about how do we help them be applied in our classroom. So we gave teachers that opportunity to have choice in where they went, but also provided that connection and opportunity to implementation of the learning we've done. We also had phenomenal representation from community partners who came in, so that folks who then maybe had a session that was like, well, I want to try this in the field. Who can help me do this? Or where can I go to try this out? Could then ideally walk in the hall, and then there was, you know, the local bank and a local potential field trip opportunity and local learning partners that were there to support and connect with teachers at their fingertips. So it was really exciting to spend the day learning and collaborating, and I always love that chance to spend that time in the learning space, and your teachers really just leaned in and were so collaborative. So it was always lovely to see. And then I also, like Pam, wanted to shout out the STEAM Showcase that took place on March 27th. The incredible range of science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics, and the cross integration across those content areas. Seeing that extension opportunity that happened, but also highlighting some of the work that's happening within our classrooms. And then also the really intentional, thoughtful work that the Stimuli does, which he puts into this event and organization, bringing, again, in those community partners and putting them right next to some of our high schoolers who might be interested in pursuing and connecting. So once again, so wonderfully done, and so exciting to see just the straight joy from our adults and our children in our community. It's pretty awesome when you're like, you have a shark face paint, holding a snake, like rocking a robot. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So another just really amazing special thing about this district to shout out. And then just, if you're looking to fill your spring calendar, there's a lot of really exciting arts events going on. The play is coming right up, our 5th grade play. We're doing Willy Wonka, so I hope to see you here. There's various concerts, art shows that are coming up and taking place. So I do hope that you'll find a space and an opportunity to join us for one of those events. That's it. That's all I got. You're welcome.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next on the agenda is use of stabilization funds for network technology. So how do we want to handle this? Is this just making a motion and a discussion, or?
Yeah, I think start with the motion. There, you look at the bottom of the memo, shows you some recommended language, and then you can give you a brief explanation of what we need to do and answer questions.
So I'd like to make a motion that the school committee authorize an appropriation from the stabilization fund up to $110,000 $970 for the purchase and installation of a replacement of our network switch. Do I have a second? Thank you. Discussion? Does anyone have any questions about? Can you share a little bit from the public?
I'm going to jump on that after. Yeah, no, currently we have 2 network switches. Both of our switches have reached the end of their useful life. One or haven't reached the end, but their useful life predetermined. One in 2014 and the other in 2022. A lot of our network needs have been moved to the cloud, which reduces our reliance on them, but still it is absolutely needed. So we have the opportunity to purchase a network switch this year and to receive a discount of approximately $44,000 if we go ahead with it this current year. So the E-rate program is a federally funded program by the government. It's broken down into different categories, but basically a category 2 is an equipment upgrade. And they allow you 40% of the cost of an item. It is awarded in 5-year increments. We are at the 5th year and we have 44,000 left in our allotment that we are able to use. In hearing what's going on with the federal government and some bitsing behind the scenes, we don't think this program is actually going to go forward anymore, which is very unfortunate, but I'd love to use the 44,000 that we have allotted to us at this point. So the total cost of the replacement switch is 110,000. I'm very confident that we will receive that 44,000 that has been granted to us. And we're just asking for the funding, which ideally will be a net cost of the 66,000. Let's make sure we have the contract award in the amount of the 110. And this quote is in our hands, ready to go. We did have it on the capital plan this year. Initially, it was in next year's plan, but because of the E-rate funding expiring, we moved it up to this year. Any questions?
Thank you.
So with the bumping it up, is there anything we're deferring in order to maximize the gains on that E-rate and do this now?
Not at this time. It's just going to eventually come to a point when our stabilization fund dips to a low point. What can we do and what can we not? Since I arrived here just over a year ago, we really haven't moved forward with significant capital projects at all. So that's going to be a future discussion in the coming months about what we need to move forward with.
In about 30 minutes, this will take on, there'll be a greater rationale behind this, and I just put it out there right now. We will freeze the capital plan under the contingency plan, and we'll also have reductions within network support. So to a certain degree, this is advancing the ball to kind of make sure we have up-to-date equipment, because if we have reduced capacity to manage downtime, because we don't have the personnel, this gives us a little bit of a leg up to manage the network going forward and give the network administrator at least a fighting chance.
We're ready to vote. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is on the agenda. New business is the FY25 budget winter to spring action.
Yes, so when we put the agenda together, we weren't sure if we were going to do the winter, December 31st, or a spring, February 28th. So I made the decision to stick to my initial plan. We will be releasing quarterly financial updates to you. While this is technically, third quarter's ended yesterday, so you'll be getting a third quarter report very shortly. I did want to stick to our initial schedule. So this is a second quarter report as of December 31st. Just high level figures, we had spent 12.7 million or 42% of our operating budget as of December 31st. While we are 50% of the way through the fiscal year, our percentages don't necessarily correlate. We have different spending cycles. We have our fiscal year spending cycle. We have our school year spending cycle, which was only 3 months in at that point. And then we have certain costs that are actually backloaded when we have our final teachers pay in June. So I just want people to be aware. that while we were 50% through the budget, we are not necessarily supposed to be 50% spent at that point. I also do want to mention that last year in comparison, the same exact time period, we were 37% spent. So while that 5% differential could be a result of inflation, tighter budgets, it's just something to watch in the future to see where our third quarter financials land. Current time, fiscal 25 is continuing to appear to be in good order. Few current areas I'm monitoring closely, which include utilities, health insurance, and special education out of district costs. At the current time, I am projecting deficits in both health insurance and special education transportation. I'm not prepared to bring transfer requests to you just yet, but you'll get those with the next quarterly update. So we have a one-page financial summary listing payroll and operating expenses by DESI code categories. If there are any questions there, certainly answers just a high level. And then we also have a cash summary, which is a new addition this year. Treasurer puts it together for us. What the activity was over the 3 months, and basically at the end of December 31st, including our OPEB and trust funds, we had $12.6 million on it, with a lot of that research. So just want to bring up to speed on that. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, and I can say a few things about our conversation.
Sure, that'd be great.
So we discussed this in the finance subcommittee, to talk about the first page of the cash report, which is great. So we recommended that perhaps, in addition to the treasurer cash report, Michelle can also do a simple spreadsheet to let people know, financial people or non-financial people, to see what this means when it comes to reserves, to have a balance, and that way it makes sense to everybody. We discussed a little bit about some detailed budget lines, but overall, the projection, based on what we have today in front of us, is going to be $93,000 under the original approved budget. So we discussed what does that mean, where would it go? And then Michelle mentioned that you're going to 9,100 special education out of district account. And in average, it's about $200K that we had to prepay for the following year. So even with 93,000 surplus is low compared to previous years. Yeah.
Yes, I should actually thank you for bringing that up. Our projected balance at the end of the year is tighter than we have been in past years. So just as I kept saying, our E&D balance will probably be going down. Our budgets are becoming tighter. That is appearing to be so. These quarterly financial reports.
It's the tightest in 14 years.
Is it the tightest because we're planning it and choosing to do it that way and budgeting that way, or because of the increase in expenses that are coming up through?
Where's the why? Big picture why is a combination of constricting the budget, going forward, making it tighter and tighter and tighter each year, while at the same time, on contract renewals and things like that. That's what I see from the big picture. I don't know if you're seeing something different on the accounting.
Like I really can't compare to future years, but I'm guessing this year budget is very tight.
Example, healthcare being under. It's under because we cut back the number of carry forward heads we typically carry forward to keep the number tighter, because we had gotten some feedback that the community felt we may have been overinflating our growth estimates. So now we're under.
That's a real lesson for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Any other questions? All right, so on to the FY26 budgets. And so I think we're starting with our override contingency plan. You want to start there, or
I do, and I'm afraid to
say something quick. While you're...
Why don't you say something?
Yeah.
And then I want to make sure I post up my the slide deck so people can see it, but not people offline, like the message just told me I was going to. Oh.
Yeah. So I'd like to just treat, the override contingency plan. I know that we're all interested to see what that looks like on the committee. But I think at this point, this is hopefully something that we will not have to deal with. So I think tonight it's probably best just to stick with any clarifying questions we have, but really stay away from any debate. I'm not sure if there's a reason to really have much debate or in-depth questions about it at this point. And to save that for when it may or may not be the committee agrees, I think that's a great approach. I'm not hearing any dissent. I will.
But you're asking clarifying questions.
Sure, clarifying questions, of course, yeah.
I'm
You're
probably
like,
gonna
if someone's like, oh.
Can you make me a co-presenter from your dashboard?
You guys can hear us online. We're just dealing with a little bit of a technical issue. I think some screen sharing. So we'll be back in a moment here.
Well, when I log in, it's knocking that one off, which is all of our. That's what it is.
So you can hear us now.
I know that's. Candy break. I've got it. I think you can log in. I don't want to do anything else. But you probably don't need to, because we can run right from here. Right? And we just need to make sure it is still recording, because we don't. Yay. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Pam.
Okay, I'm gonna stand for a minute, and I led in with contingency plan, but let me start with the why in picking back a little bit to what Donna asked about kind of the process and where we are and why we're even talking about a contingency plan after we just passed the budget. So the why we're talking about a contingency plan is because The FY 26 adopted budget, also known as the level service carry forward modified budget, requires the town of, what we know about the funding mechanism is once the school committee passes a budget, it sends the completed budget to the town for the communities to vote on. So that mechanism can either be through town meeting, if the town has the resources within its town budget to cover the assessment, or it might require the town seeking a tax increase to pay the bill, either a combination of just the school or the school and the town's obligations on the year. So this year we find ourselves in a situation where Manchester reports that they can cover the increase in our budget, which is about 8%, through the available resources that they have. But in Essex, they're likely, they have told us they are going to need to raise taxes in order to do it. And the town can't raise taxes above 2.5% unless they get the taxpayers' approval to do so. So what will happen at town meeting is a vote on the budget will take place, and if 2/3 of the people sitting in town meeting agree that the budget should be turned over to the voters for their approval, it will go to the ballot on May 12th. On May 12th, we need, a majority of the voters who turn out on that day to agree to increase their tax rate in support of the Essex town budget, of which we're a part of. What we're preparing for, or getting our ducks in a row in case of, is if that doesn't pass at the ballot. If it doesn't pass at the ballot, we have a couple of more opportunities to make our case. Should it fail, and I am cautiously optimistic that it will not, and we will make the case, and I think there'll be some concrete examples of why it's important for parents to get out and vote. If it isn't successful, we could go through a period of reconsideration where the school committee has a period of time at which it reviews the budget, sees if it wants to make any adjustments. It could raise it, it could lower it, it could raise it, it could lower it, or it could say we're going to hold and ask you now to reconsider what your town meeting response and votes were. If whatever they pass forward then needs to go back to another series of town meetings in each town, and if there's a tax levy to be raised, the question would again go before the voters. That takes place sometime between June and July. If it should fail a second time, under those circumstances, or we aren't able to realize a compromise budget, something everybody can agree on, then there's a third option, which would be to go to what they call the super town meeting. I'm sure people have heard it mentioned, and that means that the towns step back out of the process.
No, thank you. I had a salad. Thank you, though.
And the school committee convenes. Hey, Rebecca, can you mute, please? So the third stage of the budget approval process would be the town step back from the town meeting process, and the regional school committee steps in. The regional school district is in and of itself its own municipality. So it works it works in conjunction with the two towns, but it sits and it's governed on its own, and the school committee is the governance mechanism for the two towns. So they would call a two-town meeting at which the residents of both towns would come, and it would replicate what you see at a typical town meeting, but we would have one item on the agenda, and that's the budget. And the will of that joint town meeting would then be the determining factor in the budget. So if the joint town meeting in the summer would pass the budget passes there, and then the towns need to reconcile that with their resources. So we started talking about the budget in October. We could be talking about the budget through August and then starting again in October for the next year. To Donna's question raised earlier, does this budget settle us for a few years? No, it doesn't. The adopted budget settles this year with the knowledge that next year, early projections of a second, we're hearing healthcare will be in double digits for some time. We know what our contract costs are going to be. So let's say if we ballpark it at 15% for healthcare and 4.5% for contractual obligations. Those are not quotable numbers. Those are, 18-month early estimates. We would be in the range of 5 to 6%, perhaps 7% growth again next year. So we would have a similar puzzle to solve. So next year, FY26 is before us. And to Keith's point about it feels like we keep doing this over and over again. That little guy with at the crossroads, we introduced him in 2021. And in 2021, we were trying to signal to everyone that we were running out of resources, that our expenditures were growing faster than we could manage, and that we were using reserves at a pretty good clip to keep assessments down annually in the 3.5% range that we were starting to see in our multi-year modeling, which we've done historically, that we were going to be hitting a breaking point. So we started introducing the idea of being at a crossroads, that the perpetual nip and tuck, make a cut, find an efficiency was going to exceed right sizing because we haven't had an enrollment decline and start to get into core programming cuts or doing things differently for the sake of financial efficiency, not necessarily because it's time to evolve and try something new. That's the why we're here today. And this is the what happens if we can't find success with the FY26 budget. So I'll just say again, we're at a crossroads. If the budget should fail, and again, we're going to be optimistic. We're going to work hard as a team. We all have different roles that we can play in that, but we'll work together, hopefully, to get it over the hump. We would essentially be level funded until we have a passed budget. So if it fails on May 12th, we need to be prepared to go forward with no more money than we have this year. That means about a $2 million gap because we do have some reserves in there that are smoothing over the true deficit. If you pulled all those reserves out, we're closer to $2.9 million in gap between what the budget really costs, what the school really costs, and the money that we have available. But we need to make $2 million in reductions. So big picture, we've kind of been dancing around the edge, and through the hard work of the teachers, the principals, the directors, we've been able to try and maintain quality. I think we can see some areas where it's not feeling like we're where we want to be. But 2 million at once is absolutely going to impact our ability to deliver the quality of education people expect from us. I think our shift is it'll go into much more of a reactive safety, compliance, trying to maximize what we can from core instruction. But I think our focus and our way of doing business is going to feel markedly different. If you've had experiences in other districts, we have been very fortunate not to have to operate in that manner. But I think it will change our capacity to do things. I think they are long-term and systemic implications to the changes. If you think about it, over the past few years, we keep missing the hiring cycle. Right, so we are tied up in budget discussions. Good hiring cycle, we'd start with some of our district leadership positions in the February time, January, February, depending on the roles. And then if you're getting a retirement, like somebody is moving on in a position that you want to get out early for, like a math position, physics position, you want to get out there like in March and start to get people who are thinking about making a move, wanting to give their district notice. We're missing all of that, and we're in budget discussions and not knowing our outcomes right through the end of the year. So we are hiring off season. We're hiring, when people who start early are no longer available. Things have changed over the years. People make moves probably more impulsively, or if they see something they like. I'm not saying we can't get great candidates in the summer, but we're not giving ourselves our best chance for candidates. So we missed the hiring pool again this year. We'll get tied up until August. Who knows what's going to happen with our own staff and who will stay, again, May 12th, finish line, we're in pretty good shape. If this thing drags out through the summer, there's a lot of touch and go. If we assume we're in a similar situation next year, we could miss a whole other hiring season. If we have to make these cuts, we absolutely will be in a difficult situation next year, and we'll miss the first year to start to right the ship. So we're looking 2 and 3 years out before we are going to get back on track to try to right the wrongs, so to speak, and try to get us back into the game of building for the future. So that's what I'm saying when there's a long-term impact. Some of the things we'll do won't show immediately. Some of the things we're going to have to do will show immediately. If your class size goes up to 26, 27, you're going to feel that immediately. If we're reducing instructional coaching support, you're not going to see that in the first year, but you're going to keep asking, why isn't this getting any better? Why are we still having the conversation about X? So there are some things that will just linger. And then we're gonna have to come back and then build a plan to correct the setback instead of building on the plans that we already have to move forward. All schools are affected, all grade levels, all segments of our operation. And I think it's important. This isn't a temporary disruption. It's not going to shift us into something new and creative overnight. This is really a shift in the district's capacity and way of doing business. So deep and long lasting and really setting us in a different trajectory. There's no way I can do this. Why can't this be a touchscreen? I'm coming over here. I'll give you a few more highlights and then we'll get into some of the details. So big picture, academic quality likely declines, especially if we're in a prolonged period of not being able to get back to where we were. Student support is going to be reduced, so you're going to see cuts to counseling, mental health services, which are critical to student support. We know it now more than ever. It's necessary. Growth will stall. That's kind of we're not going to be able to catch the good hiring cycles. Working toward the objectives on the strategic plan. We'll keep plugging away, but we'll have fewer people and less time to commit to it. I think what I would be concerned with is what we're titling barriers to participation. You're going to see a series of fees, everything from the Chromebook that you get in the 6th grade to instrumental music moving to out of school time and for a fee to parents, and athletics fees are going up combined with a sock fee, I think is thrown in there, and a reduction of some sport teams. We're looking at 22 plus FTEs. The heads and the FTEs are going to be different for people who want to look at those numbers. There's a body associated with a partial FTE, so it's about 25 to 26 people, but in total, 22 full-time equivalents. Basic outcomes from that, workload goes up, reduced planning time, as you'll see, and recruitment and retention of highly quality people wanting to stay and people wanting to come is going to be a challenge for us going forward. So what does it look like? This is going to be a little hard to see, but I think we can boost it. So a little bit of the thinking about how we put this together, and really want to commend the leadership team. That's your principals and directors on really taking a professional lens to this. So we started with the deficit. The deficit was about $2 million, and we divided that up proportionally based on the size of the school and the student population. So what percentage are you of the total budget? That was done for all schools, all departments. And then we looked at an 80-20 split between personnel and general expenditures, because that's how it breaks out in our budget, right? About 80% of our budget is people and their benefits, and about 20% of the budget is other things. So we started with professional staff. We're always trying to maximize a retirement or somebody, moving on from us because something good is going on in their life. So something like the ELL teacher we're able to handle through attrition, we will bring that back only as a half-time position. It's relatively low incidence. You'll see in our notes page, because there's a whole page of kind of implications for each of these roles. We're fairly low incidence. So we, on paper, 0.5 should do the trick. Now, if it's a year where we have a higher than average number, or the distribution of the students is in every building instead of one building, it will be tricky. We'll have to backfill with extra hours for other employees, or trying to give some stipends to some folks. But we think we can make that work. And I'll preface this with, none of these are good choices, and none of these are recommendations or aha moments where we think we can do something creatively different. These are, how do you keep the building safe and operational? How do you deliver core instruction? And how do you do it so it's balanced throughout the district and in every building? We will be eliminating 2 instructional coaches. We had just brought those on last year. They will be eliminated. Elementary music. If you have kids at the elementary, most of our specials are done cross district by one person. Like the librarian is part-time in one building, part-time in another. We will go to that model for elementary music. Right now, we're carrying 1.7, so one in a fraction. One person does general music and all of the instrumental lessons. So all of the instrumental lessons that are currently in the day and free to students will move to outside of the day and for a fee to students and families. So it's pay as you go for instrumental music. Elementary PE, this one is asterisk. So with elementary phys ed, we currently have 1.9 staff members, 2 people, 1 in each building, and we offer PE twice a week to students. Art, music, tech, library is once a week, PE is twice a week. This will move the model again back to, we'll use library as an example, where we'll go down to 1 PE teacher who's in one building half the week, the other building the other half of the week. It's really part of each day, and the students will only have it once. The impact here is reduced activity time for kids, which is not great. And the residual impact of that is we owe 6 blocks a week to elementary teachers for prep time. We'll only be able to provide 5. So we are proposing an hour and a half early release each Wednesday, so teachers can have their prep time, and we are in compliance with the contract. We're going to reduce elementary reading MTSS, so support to students, by 0.6. Again, we're maximizing an attrition. We have a retirement there, so we aren't going to bring back 0.6. We'll try to, if we are able to hold on to Title I, manage most of this through the Title I grant through tutors. We're going to look to reduce a classroom at Essex Elementary in looking at the head counts for K and 1. Right now, we would be looking at a class because we are holding on school choice and aren't certain if we're going to go forward there. We would have 12 students in each section of kindergarten, and I believe 13 or 14 students in each section of grade 1. Being mindful of enrollment as a driver, we would go down to 1 classroom at either K or 1 and look to manage enrollment, because it could keep coming over the summer through something like a multi-age classroom, where maybe one teacher teaches over 2 grades. So that's where we are going to have to get creative and innovative to manage. We did look at moving all of the 5th grade to Memorial School as a way to redistribute teachers. But the cost of doing that, you'll see we took a cut in bus runs. A bus run is about $75,000. So average teacher cost is $85,000. So there's really no savings to bus the students over. So we looked at that as well. By regional contract, students in K through 4 are entitled to attend their town school building. So we don't have authority, like if we were in Wellesley, we might be able to redistrict some kids. We don't have the authority to redistrict. We could, conversation for another day, potentially look at intra-district choice to see if we can get some voluntary movement between schools. We'll be looking at a memorial classroom as well. Bringing all of the memorial grade levels down to 2 sections. We have a dedicated bridge counselor. So bridge is a program that runs within our academic center at the high school. The focus there is we have students who may go out into a hospitalization, go out for physical, mental health reasons, and then need to reintegrate back into the system. They would go into the bridge program as an assist to get back in the swing of things. And we were fortunate to have a dedicated counselor there. We will reduce that counselor and restructure the program. We will move the counseling load back to the 2 building counselors. So middle school students will receive support from the middle school adjustment counselor, high school students from the high school counselor. The one that got some attention in the public comment, we are looking to reduce content sections at the high school, 1 world language, 1 English, 1 social studies, and 0.5 art. And you heard some examples of the impacts. I think if you're looking at, we're looking at about 5, 10, 15, about 17.5 section reduction. That's full year equivalent. Sections could duplicate. You could have, quarter courses or semester courses, but it does. It will push up class size, and it will constrict the options for scheduling, meaning kids may not be able to get everything they want loaded in their schedule. I know Julie will do everything she can to prioritize juniors and seniors. So my assumption is the impact we'll start to see it first at freshman, sophomore level. And then look to find creative ways to manage the schedule. But I think we know it means limits on annual offerings going forward. Middle school academy, that's the 5th. So at 6th grade, there are 6 content courses. And then we have middle school academy, which has taken on a couple of different iterations over the years. And it's currently a writing and language focus. Provides supports and interdisciplinary learning opportunities. So that would be eliminated completely. We'll be looking at reorganizing the 6th grade sections. So right now the kids are subdivided into 5. They have 5 classes. We will move them into 4 sections. So that will push class size up, I think, from 18 to about 23 or 24. And then the content area teachers will take on their 5th course being the interdisciplinary class that was covered by MSN. So it's going to change the teaching load of the 6th grade teachers, and it's going to increase class size a little bit in the content areas. Middle school ACE, we're going to go down a teacher there. That's one of our specialized special education programs. Health wellness, right now we have 2 staff members teaching health and PE at the middle school. We will be reducing that to 1, similar to what we're doing at elementary school. They'll still have health and wellness, which is PE, health and PE, but we're going to reduce the number of meeting times, and one of the teachers will end up moving up to the high school. The middle school principal would again be eliminated, and we'd be taking out 1 middle school reading specialist. So that's just the professional staff. Then we're looking at some restructuring of administrative. And the principal is in the professional bucket. They are educators, even though they're educating in a different way now. This is more your classic support roles. So we would restructure the administrative office and lose the payroll clerk. So those reports might take a little longer now. Computer technician, we would go down 1 computer technician, district-wide, 2 KTAs. The library TA at the elementary, we will retain the library TA here because it's a dual function. It's both library and it helps cover absences. The cost benefit is we would be saving on substitutes as opposed to hiring substitutes every time someone was out. We do hire substitutes if people out for a elongated period of time, but just for those one-off day here and there, they utilize the library. The bridge TA, so that's part of that restructuring I talked about earlier. And then we're going to restructure the high school administration, that they're going to shave a half-time person off there. Now we're into some things that aren't people related, but support people in different ways, and some support kids, some support adults. Crossing guards, that's actually an easy one. We can't find crossing guards, so that's more of an accounting, $1,500 that really had not a ton of impact. We're gonna reduce the facility small cap, and that's gonna kick in the freezing of the capital plan. So we have a capital plan that relies on our stabilization fund, which we just spent a little money out of tonight. It's down around $1 million right now. So all of the large planned projects, we're going to take a hold and take them as they come. So if that pipe under Essex Elementary starts to smell like sewer again and it's a cracked pipe, we're going to have to go in and fix it. But we're going to hold off on anything that is kind of on the proactive maintenance, make sure you get ahead of it type of thing, to ensure we have enough resources to create a backstop on our annual facility small cap. So these are small things that come up during the year that usually hold about $100,000 in a contingency for. So we would rely on stabilization for that. We partner with the North Shore Consortium. It's our special education consortium, and we pay a small contract fee and they provide wraparound services. And these are extended services beyond the day for some of our higher need families. This is another situation where there was a lot of discussion about it. It's fairly low incidence, and we think we can support our students here. So this is an area we thought we could, with a contract, the nice thing is if suddenly we find ourselves in desperate need, we could try to choose something else and bring it back in. But it is definitely a loss. They provide a level of extended day support that is helpful for some of our needier families. We're going to reduce professional development by $600-700, and our professional development will only be focused on training and initiatives related to our strategic plan. So kind of free choice in supporting different departmental interests or school-based interests will be limited. We're going to reduce the bus run. This is going to impact Manchester side. We'll consolidate everything to one bus run. So I think you can anticipate a little bit longer ride time, but we can get a savings of $75,000 there. We are exploring a general user fee for high school, but really haven't figured out in enough detail to include it on here. What we're finding difficult with the high school activity fee is some of the activities are clearly co-curricular and have an academic extension to things kids are doing in class, and some are more pure fun. So which ones are we going to charge for, and which ones would it be inappropriate to charge for? So I know the team is going to work on coming up with a proposal for that, but we didn't feel comfortable giving it a number yet. We are going to reduce the cost of athletics by $39,000, and that's going to be a combination of, I'm proposing an 8% increase in fees to align with our budget. If we're in a contingency plan, the middle high school would be under one principal, making middle school students eligible to play up on high school teams under Meyer rules. So we'd be looking at the elimination of at least one, if not both, of all of the middle school sports, leaving them the opportunity to play up. We are holding one each of field hockey and basketball at this point in time, I think. There's also a sock fee. Socks are expensive suddenly. So there's going to be you'd have to pay for your own socks too. So there are a bunch of big things, and there's some really tiny little things that seem, ridiculous, but we're trying to find every penny we can. We're going to reduce the SRO by 50%. She's primarily working out of the middle high school now. I'm confident that the police departments of both towns will continue to support us for long-term planning around crisis management. This would be mostly just her time on site, down to a few days a week as opposed to every day. Obviously, one of our concerns, and you'll see it in the notes, is when you start to peel back a lot of the extra adult hands that aren't with kids, we're feeling a little exposed on our ability to manage the building safely. So that's why we went with a 50% instead of a full 100% reduction, because we would be losing the middle school principal as well. Some administrative staff, part of the administrative staff's job is to make sure people who are coming in the building are supposed to be in the building. So it's a little bit of a balancing act to make sure we have enough of everything to still maintain safety and compliance. Middle school Chromebooks, when kids get into 6th grade, they're issued a Chromebook by us. We buy them on lease. They're good for 3 years. We set them up, maintain them, we know what's on them. We have the ability to track them. So the proposal is we stop issuing them and go to lease setup where parents can either purchase or lease, and we can facilitate the lease in purchase of the Chromebook and shift that cost to the parents. And then we're going to eliminate some instructional software. You've heard there's something called MyPath, which is an intervention-based software that kids can work on to work on remediating some of their skills. So that and another tool called iExcel would be eliminated. They're non-core, they're supplemental. It's not something that we would do in a perfect world, but a place where we thought would take a reduction. Then the system-wide reorganization, that K-5 every day, Wednesday early release. It wouldn't be a full early release. It would be about a 1 o'clock or 1:30 dismissal. Like I said, to give them about an hour of their prep time. And we're going to move the SAIL program. That's one of our specialized special education programs, currently housed at Memorial School. But this has come up in budget. Why does Memorial School have so much staff? Well, it has a lot of specialized programs, and it has the pre-K. So it, by nature, just has more adults in the building. Both those programs come with a fairly large number of TAs associated with them because of the profile of the kids. So we discussed it and we're going to return, sales going to go to Essex. There's quite a few number of Essex kids in the program already who attend on this side. And that will actually allow us to shift some adult presence over to Essex Elementary, because as we go through this list, they have a lot of the shared staff, which means they're down people to help with basic things like opening school, dismissal, recess, lunch. So this will give her some extra hands just to manage the building on the day-to-day. So that gets us to 22.7 FTEs, about 25 people impacted, and we're just over our target reduction of 2,077,000. I've talked a lot. You all have the benefit of the detailed list, which I don't think we all want to go through right now, but it'll be posted and everybody can read kind of the longer version of what I said for each of the roles. One thing I do want to note, that we're talking about 22.7, but between FY19 and FY24, we had already reduced 15 positions in district. That was in part right sizing, and some was just straight up budget reductions. So this is on the back of that. So if somebody can do, Michelle, do the math for me. If we take 15, almost 16 positions on top of 22, we're climbing fast. So these are all the things we used to have. I would just say in closing, my favorite guy, I'm sure you're all sick of him. We are at a crossroads, because if we have to implement a plan like this, one of the kids said, this isn't the school, we're not going to be the same. We're not going to be able to be the same school. And that may be the will of the community. And if it is, we will have to figure out where we go from there. But we can't do both things. We can't keep cutting and keep the same level of quality and doing things the same way that we did them before. And I think it's going to hit us at our core. It's, the strong academics, the inclusion and comprehensive support, breadth and scope of programming, opportunity for all students. People come into the district, they do feel like it's a little bit different here, and that's a good thing. That there's a lot of mutual respect between students and teachers. I'm saddened to hear that people are feeling resentment building. I can see it. I mean, I'm not blind. I think we keep trying to put on a good face and move forward, but if we started this conversation in 2021, it is exhausting people. And it is not making us as desirable a place to come and work anymore. So we start to see it in the pool of candidates that we pull for positions too, when we can pull them. So we're really up against it. And I appreciate everybody's position, the emotion, and anything you can do to support us would be greatly appreciated. Happy to answer questions.
Go ahead, Teresa.
An actual clarifying question.
Yep.
So on the list, I noticed that you're basically starting from scratch with this when it starts to this. And I see that the middle school principal is on there as the reduction. I see the content area, the high school content teachers, but I don't see the facility manager position on there. So
because that reduction is already existing in the budget.
So that being the case,
yep.
Are we saying that these high school content area cuts are in addition to the 2 FTE reallocations that are in the budget we've already approved?
Semantics.
Okay.
We haven't cut any positions in the budget. We've moved their locations.
That's why I said reallocation.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, no reallocation in this straight cut.
Got it.
The district did not lose 2.0 FTE in the FY26 budget. The high school loses 2.0 FTE.
Okay.
And so those positions, to be clear, those positions at the high school have been cut. We have retained the FTE within our budget.
Yes. Yep.
Got it. So this produces.
So when we talk about,
No,
when we talk about high school content teachers, this contingency plan references 3.5 FTEs, but in fact, the high school will be down 5.5 FTEs. Is that correct?
No, because what I could have done is I can redo it to show that Memorial reduce that by 2.5, Memorial would lose an FTE. Because Memorial gets the
Gets the
FTE in the FY '26.
So Memorial is not,
So under,
the staff at Memorial, the current staffing numbers would stay the same because the budget we've approved.
in our
adds
approved
one,
budget,
and this one would.
high school reduces 2.
Yep.
District loses nothing, but we put them in different places. Right. Under this, they just go, it's just straight cuts. So what I didn't do was roll up to the high school. I didn't show Memorial getting the teacher and then losing the teacher.
Okay.
I just took it straight out of high school.
Got it.
But is Memorial losing an additional classroom teacher?
Yes. Sorry. Now I get the clarification. Yes, they would go
That's
down.
what we're trying to.
In our current budget, they would go up and have the ability to run 2 grade levels with 3 sections. In the contingency plan, they go down to 2 sections per grade level.
And for clarification related, I think that, I said this to a couple of people, I don't think we gave enough airtime in the initial budget go around to talking about those 2 reallocations, because we were talking a lot about the principal position. And so should the override pass, this is the case, we are still losing 2 positions at the high school, which in our budget packet was not defined. We didn't know which positions, just 2 FTE from the high school to be reallocated, 1 at middle school, 1 at Memorial. So even if that's the case, we're not, it's level services, but it's still, because it wasn't a retirement or something that allowed for it, it still is a loss of 2 there.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll make my public plug. There are several different ways to solve for the world language problem, and I push everybody to continue to talk about aligning the times of the schedule, or using existing staff in different ways. There is a way to solve this problem in world language. We're going to, I think, in speaking with Julie, it is the principal's decision on how they want to allocate resources. So if we move a full position, it'll be the middle school principal's determination on how to divvy up the 1.0 that's moving to them. And I think the rationale, if, behind reducing the social studies department by 1 is that both science and math have 5 teachers. This would bring them in line. And in theory, you can use English teacher as a swing teacher between the 2, giving each 5.5. So they'll be staffed in line with 2 other departments. And the English department is the one that has the actual extra staffing now. So that's why they're the next up on the list for reduction.
And then the final clarification, once again, is that none of us like any of this.
No.
Nothing good here.
Nothing.
No, because sometimes there is.
Yeah, like I
There's
said,
nothing good.
these aren't like, hey, it would be interesting if we reduced elementary PE to once a week to see how that would play out.
Yeah.
Or there's a new way of there's not a new way of doing any of this yet. It's just a rollback.
Right. Anything else I have would be opinion. Sorry. I'm good.
Anyone else have any clarifying questions? That's it.
Pam, I believe you said earlier, and I just want to make sure that we're clear, that we're going through this exercise because you in essence have to notify teachers of the possibility. It's not that we're choosing to go through this exercise, but you have notification requirements. Is that correct?
I have notifications and requirements by June 15th. But I think we have an obligation to explain what's at stake if we aren't able to secure a budget.
Okay. On the second clarification I have, on the bottom of this page, you have healthcare implications. One of them is unfunded unemployment liability, and you have that reserves at the bottom. Does that imply that we would have to pull more reserves out?
Not that we necessarily have to pull them. So if everyone is laid off and no one is successful in finding a job and it files for unemployment, we would have an obligation of $849,000 estimated. So some of the theory of the case is that you keep cutting until you break even. I don't have more. I don't think I've got more. We estimate that we'll have, well, not estimate, we did a line by line. Our savings in healthcare from people going off the plans would be $463,000. So if we use that to pay for this, we would still have an unfunded liability of $385,000. So that assumes everybody goes forward. It's kind of like the end of a basketball game where you keep fouling and hoping that somebody doesn't make the shot. We're not going to do that. We're going to just say, if we blow through the healthcare savings, we would come to you with a request to transfer and use the reserves to backstop it instead of making more cuts.
All right, thank you for that.
Sure.
Pam, under the EL teacher, it says may result in non-compliance. Does that mean as of now, we would be in compliance, but if we had more EL learners moving to the district, we could end up out of compliance?
Yeah.
Now, Pam, do you need to reiterate? I know you kind of talked about the timelines, the budget timelines at the beginning. Do you need to reiterate that at all, or?
Happy to. I feel like I'm a broken record and people are probably tired of it. So April 28th, the Monday after April break, is Manchester Town Meeting. Successful vote there approves our budget in Manchester. May 5th, Essex Town Meeting. A 2/3 vote of the town meeting participants moves our budget to the next stage of approval, which is the ballot. If we don't achieve 2/3, we don't have a budget. So then we go to reconsideration. If it goes to the ballot, May 12th is election day. We would know late that night or the next day whether or not we have an approved budget. If we don't have an approved budget, we're going to reconvene, reconsider the budget, and lower it, raise it, or send exactly what we have now. It's going to be up to the committee to decide. And then we go through the whole process one more time. If it isn't successful in that next round, then the school committee can decide on whether or not it wants to take on a super town meeting. If the whole thing goes all the way through and everybody exhausts all the potential timelines for each stage, I think it's projected first week of August could be when it all resolves.
Do you need a 2/3 vote at super town meeting, or is it just majority?
Manchester, just a majority in Essex. Oh.
Let me look it up. I'm afraid to say. I think I know, but I'm afraid to say something and get people's hopes up.
Question. So I'm looking at the timeline in the draft outline here, and I know when we went through last time, which I hate to say we have to do this again, but we did our best to try to beat that July 1st deadline. And so we have the second town meetings timeline here, June 19th to August 2nd. Is that based on have you had conversations with our town leaders wondering if that's the case? Okay.
No, this is just based on, so last time we were in this position, we had reached out to a municipal attorney.
Yeah.
Mina.
Right.
And this is based on his reporting to us on what we would need to do.
Okay. So last time I remember Manchester had a special town meeting scheduled anyway at the end of June, and Essex was willing to pull one together really quickly for that. So these are not set in stone is my point. We could move this faster if we needed to.
Right. That timeline you have assumes everyone takes the longest
possible
time. Yeah.
That raises a question that I mentioned to Kate and Chris already, but why wouldn't we want to put a tentative meeting on our agenda for immediately following the Essex vote? So that we're able to, should we need to, which hopefully we are not needing to. But it's hard to get this committee together quickly.
That would be the 13th, if you're interested in doing it.
Yeah, so the way the timing works out for that is that we already have a scheduled meeting for the 20th, which this full committee would still be a part of. So I think we already have that sort of stopgap built-in plan. If we did want to look at doing something a bit different, but I tend to be positive, and we already have a meeting, within a few days. I think the earliest we could really you know, I'd like to not, personal, that's what I was thinking.
I would be in favor of doing that, of tentatively putting some, technically we have the 6th and or is it the 6th or, no, we have the 5th. We have it on town meeting day, so we don't have one the 6th. So right after town meeting, we don't have one. So in May, right, we have one out the 20th. I would be in favor of booking the 13th right now, on the idea that we will have the answer for the 12th if needed. If it passes, we can go ahead and not have it.
Because the 20th, we also are going to have an agenda. We already have things on the agenda. If it weren't to pass, we're going to need that time and probably more time than we want to squeeze into our.
And that's also senior week, isn't it? Or is that when all the things happen? The week of May 20th.
No, that shouldn't be senior week like that.
The prom and all that.
No, it's coming up after.
No, it's
After.
So you're suggesting everybody hold the 13th?
Teresa and I are suggesting that. I'm not
Erica
sure.
and I are
There's something-
suggesting it.
We could hold it as a workshop rather than a meeting.
Well, it is whatever you want, yeah, so we can.
Have to vote.
I'll make a motion that we reserve May 13th for tentative workshop evening if needed based on the Essex override outcome
At what time? Second.
at 6:00 PM.
Erica, second.
Yes, sorry, I'm sorry, second.
Any discussion?
All right, then we'll vote quickly. All those in favor of tentatively scheduling? All those not in favor?
Let's hope we don't need.
It's my hope.
Yeah, I'll do calendar by the end of the week.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd say one more big picture comment, which is.
Well,
I think-
but we
comments
move on
or
to
we-
school committee comments.
Okay.
That'll be.
Then I will make it a school committee comment, but about this. I think, you know, our kind of sporadic attempts to get at this notion of what excellence is and would actually be very helpful to advance that sooner rather than later, because when we get to these moments, and given that we're likely to be in this situation again and next year or the year after or soon after, it would behoove us to have a little bit of a sense of where we want to, you know, and we have a little bit in the strategic plan, but it's hard to react in these moments and make decisions that will, you know, align with our strategic plan and really relate to excellence. So I think we would benefit from advancing that conversation ourselves over the next year, so that it's not so much a reactionary moment when we get to this point.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I have school committee comment. I would like to comment that I appreciate the hard work that you guys put into this garbage proposal that you had to bring forth, and all of the administrators that had to go through this and the teachers that have to sit through this. I truly hope that we are all doing everything we can to make that not the case. So the comments I would like to make about that are that I noticed through that, the thing that kept coming to me was past school committees were really, really hard to get out of the business of nickel and diming families. I remember that being an intentional choice of past committees previous to our time to not have a fee for every single little thing, and got us out of that. And, you know, maybe it seemed a little bit too good to be true, or we got complacent about it, or people didn't recognize that it was an intentional choice. But this brings a lot of that back necessarily. And a lot of that is going to disproportionately impact not the most vulnerable who will qualify for support with that, right? But those families that are feeling the pinch and don't have abundant resources to make it happen, but who also aren't necessarily going to qualify for support with it. And I think that that's going to create greater inequality. And I hope our communities see that, given the socioeconomic divide that we have across our district, this is disproportionately going to impact the people we need to support the most. The capital plan, freezing the capital plan while letting go of a facility's head. It's not wise stewardship of our assets. And I'm just so disappointed that we are in this position again. But here's what I'm hoping. The question keeps coming up about, are we going to do this again next year? The budget we set couldn't address a long-term solution, a multi-year solution, unless we personally passed a budget asking for extra money to go into our reserves, which probably wasn't going to get approved by anyone. So my hope is that we pass this and that in my town, Essex, our town leaders, I know they pay attention to these meetings. I know they're on there. We've got some smart people. We have another town meeting in the fall where we do a lot of allocating of our free cash. I hope that we're planning ahead right now so that we're not in this position come next spring, because we could choose to do that in the fall. So there is another buffer in between. But again, that's not our thing. We have to create this budget. So this just reinforces to me, I realize the whole committee can't commit to a thing, but reinforces to me the need to very early be saying, I'm not going to be in favor of this now. I'm not going to be in favor of it next year either. We need to preserve education. Bottom line. So that's my problem.
I also think that there's a lot of families out there that do have the resources, and every year, you know, they're tired of going through this. And they're like, you know what, private school, you know, and people wonder why kids go to private school. Yeah, part of it is the sports, but also the other part of it is that the parents are tired of going through this every year. They want more consistency and more certainty with their education. So, and if they can afford to do so, they're going to consider that.
Great.
I have two requests for upcoming meetings. One, which I've iterated before, but I'd like to actually get it on an agenda if we can, which is planning for the superintendent search. I think Pam's comment today that the hiring cycle starts, you know, in December or January.
Can we wait until we have a notice from our superintendent? Because she has not given us a notice that there needs to be a search. So I think it's inappropriate to begin that until we have notice.
Okay, I was told otherwise at an earlier meeting, but okay. And then the second thing is if we can have a conversation about the math data at some point.
I have one.
Sure.
I know there are lots of parents here. Our numbers are dwindling online, but there's still lots of people online. This is a difficult week. Emotions are high. Parents are angry. I'm angry. Please don't pass that on to your kids. Our kids are listening to us, mostly when we don't want them to. Our kids are repeating what we say, mostly when we don't want them to. And those words sound 1,000 times more ugly when they come out of the mouth of a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, 13-year-old. I'm just as guilty of it. I don't realize how rude I sound until my kids repeat what I say. I never realized how rude I was to our family dog until my kids mimicked me. We don't need to shelter our kids from reality, but we don't need to pass those emotions on to them. We don't need to ask them to carry them, and we don't need to ask them to spread them. As a community, we can take those emotions and use them as a call to action. Our kids sit in history class every day and learn about people whose emotions led to changes. Let's be those people, not the people who let our emotions drive us apart.
I was just gonna recommend to a lot of people were saying, we need to start early. And we say that every year, the past few years every year. But I think summer is critical. If you want to get ahead before the fall, the town start planning I do think that us not having any sessions during the summer, other than that August workshop towards the end, is gonna help further this student. So I'll recommend to start. So
We should be able to, I was thinking about this, and you had so much on your plate, I didn't have the heart to go over and ask you to do this for me. But the budget model just needs to be updated with the adopted budget numbers, and what your budget is for next year, right? Which is, oh, you know, we can all guess what it's going to be, right? But we should be able to have that probably for the next meeting.
if there's nothing stopping.
And I guess I can just close real quick. I think we all know this as a committee, but for anyone that's online and in person, you know, again, the intent here is to provide visibility to, you know, one of our major stakeholders, which is all of our, you know, tax paying citizens, to understand, you know, where the school district is at this point. So I think clearly articulate that there is no area left to cut that will not have a significant impact on the level of education we provide in this district. And then I guess just finally along those lines, you know, I know I mentioned it earlier, just about doing some research on why we have override votes in this state. I think that would be beneficial for a lot of people to do as well. It was never initially passed to, you know, never vote for an override. It was passed to give citizens more input and direct input on how their taxes were spent. So I hope that this does help inform both of our towns in terms of how their money would be spent. And I think that would be a wise thing for us all to share that information as much as possible. So with that, unless anyone has anything.
I have a quick plug for anyone listening who is in my demographic, meaning older kids, maybe some of whom are in college, some of whom are seniors, and most importantly, some of whom can vote. Remind your students of the benefits they got from this district and remind them to stay involved. Even if they're, my son will be voting from North Carolina. It is possible. It is, it's something that I think a lot of them are going to be grateful to have the opportunity to feel like they're contributing to this process. So that's my point. Thank you. That's right.
All right. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you, Erin. That's Rachel.
It's not a happy birthday.
Is that why you were?